Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Show. The show streams live every Wednesday on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Twitter, and stream directly into your ear the following Friday across all popular podcast networks. Hosted by Edward Walton, Andrea Fisher, Rod Trent, and Brody Castle, the Microsoft Security Insights Show provides information, news, and tips on Microsoft security solutions.
Oh, unmute mic. There we go. It is. What's the date? It's May. It's May 10th. It's May 10th at 2:05 Mountain Time or 4:05 Eastern Time, and you are listening and watching the Microsoft Security Insights Show. Rod Trent.
Yeah,
you're back. How's it going, sir?
I'm kind of back. I'm still off this week. You can see for those that are just listening and aren't watching, my little headline there is "Painting is for Painters." I'm off this week. We're getting our house ready to sell, and as part of part of that process is repainting the entire inside of the house. My wife did all this due diligent research. What's the name of those HGTV people? Joanna Gaines or something. She went on their website and looked through everything they talked about. What colors do we need to paint the walls to sell the house? And she spent literally 2 days and then finally figured out what color she wanted. And that's what we're painting the house with. And I am not a painter. You give me a blank wall with no corners and no edges, man, I'm really good with that roller. But you start getting close to the edge, you don't want me doing the job.
What about painter's tape? Have you heard of painter's tape?
I've heard of painter's tape. I've used painter's tape, but
Okay.
I just don't have the time for it.
Time. Okay.
Yeah, just like, no, I could be doing like 3 or 4 other things than just sit here focusing on this little.
That's fair.
Little nugget of
the internet probably heard way less chatter overall while you were busy painting. So that's fair.
No.
Oh, you tweeted from your phone while you're painting?
I did, and
yeah, there you go. Okay.
And of course, I have the rod bot.
The Rodbot's doing it for you? Oh man, he's automating. I'm a fan of Rodbot. That's in my description today. Fan of Rodbot. Still think that's the best name. Shout out to Andrea Fisher, who doesn't think it's the best name, but that's okay. That's okay. Just by
even using my 12-year-old brain, I think Rodbot still sounds fine.
I think it sounds fine.
She made it seem like there was some kind of innuendo, and I have no clue what that is. I guess I just live in Ohio. We're just the way Ohio people, we're just kind of.
You're chill.
Yeah. Think clean and.
Sure, I'm sure you all do.
Yeah.
So did you decide the paint color that makes the house sell the best? Is it the color of your shirt today?
No.
Oh, okay.
So to mention Andrea once again during this episode, since she's not here, her or Edward, I was out running. It's a beautiful day. I'd finished kind of my role in the painting process, because once we start getting to the edges, my wife's like, "Get out of here, let me do the rest." So
get out of my way.
So I got to take a run. It's really nice here in Ohio today. So I went out to take a run, and then my alarm goes off. I thought I had about an hour before the show, but no, it started an hour earlier than normal. And this is something that we all talked about a few months ago, I think, when Andrea joined us, and she absolutely needed the time change. So here we are, and I still have my running shirt on. Yeah.
Well, I can make this timer if it pleases Andrea, our wonderful co-host. Then
love Andrea.
I will make the time. I will make the time. Absolutely. Rob, what have you been? So you've just been painting. You've been running.
I've been doing other things.
What's new in Microsoft Security, Rod?
So last week, I delivered 5 sessions at the Midwest Management Summit at the Mall of America, which is in Minneapolis, right?
Cool.
So talked about, what was my first session? Oh yeah, first session. Had a lot of folks in the sessions, which was awesome. I think I had like 90 some in the first one. It was Zero Trust for endpoint security, right? Then what else did I do? A couple other things. Did some Sentinel stuff. Talked about AI, of course. Everybody wants to talk about AI, and I'm happy to do that at any point. However, one of the things that I talked about last week during one of my Sentinel sessions was this new hunts feature within Microsoft Sentinel. and because the conference last week is not recorded and you're obligated not to tweet things out.
Yeah.
They make it kind of a black box type of conference so that Microsoft folks can talk about NDA stuff. So last week I went through and we talked about the Hunts feature, which just released into public preview this morning. So that's some news if you want news.
Rod, I think our listeners would love a high-level overview of the Hunts feature before we get to our excellent guest. That sounds like a really cool feature.
Yep. So this has been in private preview for a long time. We've had I think a little over 100 customers that have participated in this because it's a cool feature. From a hunting perspective, the customers that I've worked with, particularly coming from something other than Microsoft Sentinel, they've either slowed down their hunting processes or stopped hunting altogether. And hunting is still absolutely a critical aspect of the whole SIEM or security process, right? Enabling organizations to take the latest news on new threats, new threat actors, and things like this to identify if it exists within their environment before someone like Microsoft supplies the threat intelligence. So it helps them kind of cover those gaps to determine if that's something. We've done things right out of the gate with Microsoft Sentinel when it was released to help improve hunting so that customers that use Microsoft Sentinel can still do this and still go about their daily work, what other responsibilities and things they have as part of their role or their job. So it's less cumbersome, it's less painful. However, this week, and also been in private preview, is what we call hunts.
Yeah.
This is I kind of look at it as almost like a notebook for hunting operations. So you're able to collect everything, all your collateral, all your artifacts, your evidence, and everything as you do these hunts so that you can always come back to them. So a hunt in this sense is something that is kind of ongoing until you determine if it's a nothing or if it's something that needs to be sent and created as an official investigation. So sent to one of your investigative analysts. So it's another way for two different types of analysts to kind of work together for security for the organization, right? So
Cool.
So hunts is really cool.
Cool.
You can collect multiple queries, you can collect multiple entities in this little notebook of hunting, and then do whatever you want to with it.
It sounds like it would be easier to get into than any time previous based on how you're describing this to me.
Yeah. Well, and when you go into hunting today, if it's rolled out to your region already, then if you go into the hunting blade, hunts is the very first tab. That's the first place that you're introduced to. It used to be just all of those queries, which that's something I should note and mention as well. Someone asked about that last week. I don't really see this often because I've been running my environment for Microsoft Sentinel for 4.5 years. But if you stand up Microsoft Sentinel today, brand new, nothing. We used to have all of this great collateral that came as part of standing up Sentinel. So we had all these analytics rules, all these hunting queries, all these workbooks, and just had to enable them in playbooks. But you stand up Microsoft Sentinel today, there's literally nothing in there. So
why would we have taken
it was also confusing. So a lot of our customers, when you stand it up, you look in there, you're like, oh, I need to enable every one of these analytics rules because they gave it to me, right? So the idea now is you stand up Microsoft Sentinel, you identify those things in your environment that are critical or the things that you need to connect to Microsoft Sentinel. You go into the Content Hub, find the solution for that. That solution installs all of the analytics rules, parsers, and everything specific to that solution so that because you enabled that solution, you absolutely want these analytics rules, these hunting queries, and et cetera, et cetera.
Well, that's fair. You want everybody to have their own a la carte option to decide what they may or may not want, and we don't want that being any more confusing than it was. As long as it's still pretty easy to go to the Content Hub and install something, so
yeah,
not a big deal.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different. It's no big deal. So.
Excellent, man. Excellent. Well, I don't have any amazing just released to private preview or public preview. It's public preview now, Hunts?
That's public. Yeah,
public preview.
Just this morning.
Yeah, well, you're the announcement guy. On my front, before we get to our guest, I've been working again on some more zero trust with defense organizations, Canada and the United States, which is pretty cool. and we're wrapping up a few projects on my end to kind of allow me to focus on that over the summer. And it's Connect season. Had my end of year review today, and it went quite well. And
I was
I'm a
going to
manager.
ask you about that because
Yeah.
you were you had mentioned something earlier about that, and that's super exciting.
Yeah. So that was really nice. The security service line, the team I'm on, we're merging the proactive and the reactive teams into one big old team, and we'll get to cross train from one another, cross learn from one another, and I think it's going to be like, there's security such a massive focus at Microsoft that we're all in the right place. So I'm really happy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Man.
And I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you, Brody.
Thanks.
I have seen you over the past couple years. You've just bloomed and blossomed within Microsoft. So I'm
Stop it.
really happy to see you get
Stop
some pats on the back.
Thank you, sir. Thank you
from
very much.
people other than Edward.
Yeah, well, I pay him to compliment me, so
Yeah.
that's great. Before we get to Dale at Vectra, our guest, how did I do with the audio last week? I just barely got it out on Friday. Did you listen to it? I kind of chopped out some.
So the audio is great. Hey, let me
Yeah. Okay.
did you said something today in Teams. You said, "Hey, is there something wrong with the RSS feed?" Did you not get my response?
No, I didn't. That was my friend.
Okay,
Steve Taylor.
I'll wait for just a second while you check that. Yep. I can't even do the Jeopardy tune.
Oh no! Really?
Do you want to read that?
Yeah, there's no media file for the Libsyn update. Oh my goodness.
That's okay. Just need to add it. Once you add it, then the RSS feed will update itself. It's fine.
I am the worst co-host.
No.
Look
this is that. So just so folks know, most generally we do these shows, and then for the next like hour and a half afterwards, I kind of do the post-production stuff, put everything together, and then just schedule it out. If I got hit by a bus or an airplane, if I was somehow up in the sky and got nailed by an airplane,
impressive,
then nobody would be able to do it. So I'm happy that Brody wants to do this. So this is great. However, yeah, it does take a little bit just to get everything pieced together. So
Rod was helping me piece together our half an hour how to make the podcast go session. Had some hiccups, but I was very, very positive I nailed it. I guess I'm gonna have to fix that Libsyn thing. Oh well, we'll do that right now. While we Rod, you bring in our guest. We'll start the introduction, and I'll go fix that little boo-boo, so I don't feel bad about it anymore.
I am super excited about this. So we've had such so many compliments over the past couple months with our Women in Cyber month and also MISA month last month leading up to RSA. So I appreciate everyone that has provided feedback for that. I think that was awesome. We had so great couple months. Unfortunately, MISA month was like we have only 4 weeks for MISA, which was interesting because Women in Cyber month we had like 5 weeks, so we had 5 awesome guests, but we were only able to have 4 last month. But there's a lot of really great partners within the association, within MISA. One of those, and let me kind of put this on the screen here real quick. One of those that we weren't able to talk with last month, but we absolutely want to discuss and have on tonight is the partner that won the Security Customer Champion Award at RSA last month. And that's pretty significant. It's pretty awesome. I think so we'll talk about that too. But I do want to bring on screen and bring to the show Dale from Vectra. Dale, welcome.
Hey, Rod. Hey, Brody. Thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be here.
Welcome, Dale.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
Dale? Was it as green as Rod?
Love the green room. Yeah,
well. Probably. I don't know.
Can't live up to that.
Yeah, that's pretty green. So there's a reason. So anytime I go out running, I always put on a bright, really, really bright shirt because I live in an area where if someone sees you running, they try to run you down because they think you've stolen their pig or trying to get away with something. So I'm just trying to just don't run me over.
Run faster.
I'm really out here running. No, but I've been on the road, lived near some larger roads and stuff like that. I've been on the road before, and you can tell. I can half a mile away, I can see the person that's actually texting or on their phone or something, because they start this little veer over into the the side lane there. So I'm like, oh my goodness.
Not the best.
Can't tell you the number of times I've had to dive into the ditch just because people drive like idiots. So,
like, what do you have? Like, you have a little rear view mirror thing on
no,
your
you run toward traffic. You bike with traffic. You run toward traffic.
Okay,
so I'm always
Copy that. Dale, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do. Tell us all about Vectra. We'd love to hear about you.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Dale O'Grady. Yeah. I'm a principal engineer at Vectra. I've been at Vectra AI for, it's coming up on 8 years now.
Nice.
Yeah. It's a long time for, quote unquote startup, but, yeah, it's so fitting that, we won the customer service award. It's, something, we talk about culture, and all companies talk about culture, and it's just something that has not deviated from day one. And, what comes up first all the time is customer first. And, it's 8 years later, geez, we're still proving it. And it's a great position to be in, because everybody it's all about the customer. We really, really believe in the customer and making the world, a safer and fairer place. So, we put our money where our mouth is, and I think it shows. And we're really happy to take that award.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I have to be honest, working with the folks at Misa and everything, and knowing, Microsoft the way I do, we love our partners, particularly those. And I'm trying not to, make it sound like I'm mean to any of the other people that won the awards, but really customer success is huge, right? So that, to me, that's like one of the pinnacle awards, right, to get. So how do you do that? I mean, this customer success that you have for your company, how are you accomplishing that, I guess?
I don't know. I think it comes down to empathy.
Yeah.
Right. I think it comes down to empathy, right? It's just, they're trying to solve a problem. They're trying to solve a real problem, and a real problem is not going to be solved with, with architecture and, just
slide decks, just endless slide decks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have this saying in here where we keep saying, you don't fix more with more. Right. And it's, it's the customers are getting more alerts, more everything. And it's, you need to put it in context. You need to solve their problems and their pain points. And the only way to do that is to have empathy. Yes, you have to have great product. Of course, you need to have the technology to be able to do it. But, having the empathy to just be with them is I think what shows. And that's, really what they appreciate.
So we showed in the awards Vectra, but from what I know, or I think I know, it's Vectra AI. Now explain that to me. Is it always, you've been there 8 years, is it always been Vectra AI, or are you all just jumping on the bandwagon like all of us?
It was not always Vectra AI. It's been Vectra AI for a long time now, but it was Vectra Networks, at first, and, but it's much more than a network company, right? And so, we're all about attack signal intelligence, which is coverage, clarity, and control. And coverage is certainly more than your traditional network. But years ago, even long before AI was cool, we turned into Vectra AI, and that's our North Star. Our North Star has always been the AI behind what we do, right? And at the end of the day, what we do is provide attack signal intelligence to the customer. One of the ways we do it is using AI. And it's, but long before it was cool, I don't know, we're like everyone else. It's, people hear AI and their eyes gloss over and stuff.
So what I found last week, right? So at an in-person conference, is that I would introduce the subject first. That way I could control the whole conversation, right? Because customers are just like, hey, what are you doing with AI? Or they'll ask some weird stuff that maybe you're not even able to answer at a certain juncture, right? Or not able to answer yet, potentially. But yeah, everybody asks about AI. Anybody sees AI on anything, hey, what are you doing with artificial intelligence?
I like the saying, AI is in PowerPoint and machine learning's in Python. So, where you
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
That's cool. So yeah, I want to learn more about your attack signal intelligence detection. This sounds really cool. How can customers take advantage of it? Where do you plug in overall to the Microsoft stack? Those kind of things.
Well,
Yeah,
and yeah, that would be awesome because knowing what I know about your solution, I'm a big fan of Microsoft Sentinel. I think everybody knows that, but so this has a little bit to do with that as well. So I'm actually looking
Yeah,
forward.
this has a lot to do with it, and it's it's that whole ecosystem approach, because there's no there's no one size fits all. There's no one tool that's going to do everything, and really what we're trying to do and what we do different and focus on is that attack signal intelligence, where it's just not more, and it's the way we approach the problem. And when you peel everything back, the world isn't looking for more alerts, right? They're not looking for taking a different way to find another variant on different. They're looking for, do I have an attack path problem right now? Is there something that I need to worry about? There's always going to be different degrees, and there's going to be degrees of urgency. And, we're kind of flipping it on its head. And at the end of the day, yes, things are detections, events, alerts, whatever you want to call them. But what do they mean? And why is it relevant? And how can I interpret it? And then how can I interpret it in a world where I've got so much turnover in staff and not everyone's up to the same level? And, quite frankly, the game changes every day. So you'll never be up to the same level. I don't think I'd be speaking at a turn to, that each of us are learning something new every single day of our lives as well, right? Because there's so much changes. So
I'm too old. I stopped learning.
You gave up?
Yeah, I did.
Trying the first step towards failure. Yeah,
especially on painting.
Yeah, especially on painting, it sounds like. Yeah.
Exactly. So before I get in and show you this, really, so we're still about doing detection. So we're about coverage. Coverage means, what are the domains that we want to be able to monitor? There's no such thing as an attack that's just one and done, or you just go in one area or one focus. These things cross domains. And when I mean domains, they're going to cross domains. They're going to be, on let's say the enterprise network. They're going to be on the, public cloud network. They're going to be in control plane. They're going to be in SaaS applications like Office and stuff. So you need to monitor it all. And so that's, coverage. Control, I'll show you a little bit in the control as well. Okay, well, what can I do about something when I see it? I need to be able to take some kind of action. And action isn't always blocking. It's not always remediation. Sometimes it's look more. Sometimes it's hunt, investigate. You want to be able to have control. And then the clarity is a real hard part to deal with. The clarity is, well, what does this mean and why do I care? Yeah. And that's really that's how we use our AI. And what we do different, I think, than the rest of the world, we're not just looking for differences. We're not just looking for anomalies. And there's something called the in mathematics, the free lunch theorem, right? And there's no free lunch. Yep. And so it's very, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier to take one approach to the problem, look for baselines, and then highlight anything that's different. Because, you can cluster that and you can classify. Everything fits into a nice little cluster, and something that, shows outside of that cluster is going to be different, ergo an anomaly, and somebody should know about it. But does different mean bad? Not necessarily. So instead, what we do, and it costs more to do it in the sense of, performance, time, etc., is we build purpose-built algorithms to look for an attack signal or an attacker behavior. What do I mean by that? An example is, I don't care about anything else. This model wants to know if there is a hidden tunnel in the environment. How do you define a hidden tunnel? Not the fact that somebody's connecting to something different for the first time. Is somebody on the outside controlling the flow of information on the inside? And you can use AI to do that. So it doesn't have to look at rarity. It doesn't have to look at number of beacons. Doesn't have to look at all this stuff. But it's looking for one very finite, fundamental attacker behavior where I need to control someone from the outside. And that's how we use AI to do that. That's just one example. And that's why the no free lunch theorem, where that is an algorithm that's built to do that and do that specifically. There will be other ones that do require, perhaps some more anomaly driven. Yeah, something's novel, but they're not all like that. I can give you an example of
it sounds really interesting. It sounds like we're kind of getting around maybe a bunch of potential false positives and noise, and we're really getting to more actionable or higher probability events that may be occurring by using your intelligence that you're talking about.
Sure, pre-assessed or have an assessment or a context or an early assessment to it to help the analyst make a better, more efficient decision. At the end of the day, the human still needs to make the decision, right?
Right.
So in relation to what we think of as AI right now, right? Generative and a few other large language model. How does this fit in there? I'm sure this is probably some Vectra IP, right? But how does this fit into that same type of model?
This would be before that. This would be,
Okay.
a sort of a prerequisite to that, if you will, right? So, and you're right, because there's so many facets to it. And this particular example that I used was AI focused on looking for one or more attacker behaviors. There's also AI that's used to do things like prioritization. Oh, based off of velocity and urgency, all these other mechanisms, you can make decisions on why something might be more important or more urgent than something else. That's a different application of AI. There's another application of AI that deals with the triage, the false positives, dealing with what we call in our world authorized behavior. The behavior is there, but it's allowed. We want to allow that. So all of this stuff happens before that. Then you start generating your alerts, you start creating your urgency, you start creating your incidents, and then the human comes in with these large language models. Now you can start, I want to ask questions. I want to help putting the context together across all of these things. What do those things need? Data, right? They need the initial data before you can really start using it. And this is more of that real-time dynamic data. So that LLM is going to come in after that. Does that?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, that makes sense.
Really cool.
And that LLM, let's just say that it's Azure OpenAI's version. How about that?
Yeah, there you go. You know what? And and we're not far off. So, and what we're providing is, we're providing that we'll call it the early warning. We're providing the evidence. We're providing, everything that's kind of leading up to that. And then, so we're the platform of detection, we'll call it. Right. Once you start getting into Sentinel, now we're talking about the platform of action. And then the platform action means, okay, I need to take action here based off of all kinds of data sets. Everything that's happening, not just one piece of the environment. I can provide information, one piece of the environment, but there's a lot more to it than just, the network detections in the form of Vectra. So we want to feed into a bigger piece, right? So on my screen here, I'm just giving an example. It's the Vectra Classic experience. There's a host in here, and I'll just sort of start with some of the integrations to give you an idea of
that'd be awesome.
Where we tie in with the Microsoft relationship.
Well, and I was noticing just immediately, right? So the EDR stuff there, Defender and Windows Defender stuff. So
I noticed that.
Well, and that's where we'll start. So this is an environment. So I'm in the, we'll call it the Vectra Classic view. And in the Classic view, this is an environment we're looking at. We're monitoring a host or an entity. An entity can be accounts, can be hosts like PCs, servers, etc. And we're monitoring those, and we're using our AI to identify these attacker behaviors. Here's the list of our attacker behaviors. We see a hidden tunnel. We see some port sweep, some SMB account scan. These are all the individual pieces of evidence that is being attributed to this host, and why we're saying, please, somebody look at Dale 162 with his very high threat and certainty score. It's what you should be looking at, not these. Yes, you need to look at individual alerts, but you don't want to take one alert at a time as they come in,
right?
Because then, you're very blind to everything. We want to say conceptually, we want to look at this entire entity, and we want to look at the entity for these reasons. And one of the first places when you start integrating, especially with things like EDR, there's two aspects to it. One aspect that a lot of people just go gravitate right to is enforcement. Mm-hmm. And sure, that's here, lock host. We can lock the host. We don't like what it's doing. We can tell Defender, put this host in the penalty box for up to 24 hours, while you can go through and you can complete your investigation. And that's great. And we're firm believers in doing this because the endpoint, that Defender, is the authoritative source for doing the blocking. Why would I ever try to block that somewhere else when it's the expert at doing it, and let those tools do the job that they were built to do? So we can do that instruction. That's enforcement, but there's also enrichment. And granted, I'm manual. I'm not a big proponent on full blown automation anywhere. But hey, if you were brave enough to, you could set that up to, hey, anytime my host reaches a certain score, just do it automatically. Don't even bother me. You could set it up that way. I prefer the semi-automated approach.
I do that. I do that.
you just go for it.
Yep, yeah, I would
deal with it later. Yeah,
and only if the title ends in CEO.
There you go. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's your logic app. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's also enrichment. So that was enforcement. But if we start talking about enrichment, there's value in enrichment, because before you start pulling all this stuff together, the first thing you need to know is, well, what am I even dealing with? There's some large environments out there, and not everybody remembers every machine that's on the network and what they are. So part of the enrichment includes tying into things like Active Directory, getting the context, knowing is this even enabled? Is the account enabled on this host? What were the last services that were used? And then in the form of Defender, that pivot as well, because maybe I do want to pivot. I want to go to the expert. I want to say, okay, I know what's happening from the network signal. Defender, what's happening from the entity signal? Because I want to be able to put this all together to make a better, more informed decision on, well, do I want to click that lock host button? Or more appropriately, do I really need to worry about this? So the first place of integration is enrichment, pulling information in from the various Microsoft aspects and products and modules. And the other aspect is enforcement, so that we can do the blocking where we need to.
So do you pull in information from other sources besides, obviously, the Microsoft stack of security tools, but is there any other TI, or do you develop your own threat intelligence that's fed in here as well?
So we do have a threat intelligence feed that we use to augment what we're doing. That's called the low-hanging fruit. There's nothing wrong with, hey, if you've got the difference is, and what we're not built for the IOCs of the 20 billion bots that are out there. And, that's better done at your perimeter and on other assets. But in our world, there are indicators that we do use that signature based or that IOC based in order to be able to say, hey, if these are some known quantities, and especially during the early phase, we'll call it the virtual patching phase, before things, something has gone public, but it's not fully patched yet in the world. That's where those come in real handy. And yeah, why worry about, doing, AI when you can just pick it up from an indicator. We also have an IDS engine that's built into it as well, where we can add the signatures, and hey, when it's efficient, and if it works, do it. We don't care. We want to get to the answer. We want to let the customer know there is an asset that needs to be investigated.
Yeah. And then who is this Dale guy? Boy, he's in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, yeah. He is. He's always in trouble. He's always in trouble. You have no idea how much trouble, actually, so much trouble that I ruined part of my demo for today.
Classic demo gremlins. It happens.
Yeah. It's not even the gremlins. It's just my irresponsibility in thinking I can make any change I want without any repercussions to the environment. So how it is.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing. The other side of demos is when you have literally no control over it. I had a demo I was supposed to do last week, and up until like 5 minutes, everything was broken. So
I've been there too. You're just sweating, like, come on.
No, I was gonna. I had Plan B, but it was not a good Plan B. It was still,
videos or just still images that you'd speak to,
something like that.
Interpretive dance.
Yeah.
Interpretive dance.
Yeah. So let's take a look at the next piece. So that's the Defender, the endpoint side. The next side we're looking at is, okay, so now I want to do something more with the data, because that's a view where, okay, I'm in a myopic view. I've got a Vectra platform. I'm looking at that. I'm using that. But more of the customer base has a lot more than that. And they want to pull everything into a central environment to make, a decision based off of more data sets. And so that's where, we're integrating with Sentinel. This is the classic view. And in the classic view is a workbook that's sort of similar type information that we were showing on the Vectra screen, but I can consume it all from within Sentinel, and I can consume it with my other data. And so, low, medium, high, critical hosts. But there's also another view. And this is the Vectra Cloud view. And this is more of the prioritized not prioritized. And it makes it very easy for looking at it. Urgency score 100. I got to work on it. The end.
Wow.
Is it high?
Yeah.
It does, no, it
Now I
doesn't
understand
really
the AWS piece, but I don't know about this O365.
yeah, exactly. So, and then we got additional data in here, and I can, go in and look at my records. So I've got this 99 Mad Drider in here, and I can see the entity, I can see the account, and then why is this thing a 99? Why is my other one 100? Well, this is why, right? Because this host is doing suspicious mail forwarding, disabling security tools. You can go through the list, so you can see exactly what's happening in here from workflow, and these are the reasons why, we don't want to take just these one at a time as they come in. We want to take it as a whole entity and say, okay, this Drider host likely compromised. Let's deal with it and deal with the entire entity. And by doing so, I clear all of these detections out. That's awesome. I'm more importantly working on the right entity at the right time.
Yeah. Well, and I appreciate that. That's something I think from a security perspective, a lot of security teams, that's what they work on, right? And in the past, it was, I have 1,000 alerts. How am I going to get through all these? We're trying to build a story here and actually tell a story of how this thing happened all the way from inception all the way to where it exists now, right? So this is awesome.
No doubt. And look at all the tools that were all the controls that were bypassed. So like, did we get that? If there's an incident in like in Sentinel today, would we see the cloud security controls being bypassed in sequence like this for incidents?
Let's see. Let me look at the times. I don't think those are in sequence either, but it's just a collection, I think. Well, no, it is. They are in sequence. Yeah. No, we don't have that sequence.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's really cool because this is a domain's obviously compromised if an admin level entity is making all of these changes.
For sure. Exactly. Yeah. And then it's funny because you mentioned incidents, because this is really where personally I start the most, is in the incident view. And the incident view, I've already got one open here, but I've got an incident that I'm looking at. And inside that incident, I can now look at my timeline and I can add stuff to my timeline. And this is what I broke earlier when I was doing it, because in my timeline, I had all my Defender stuff and I had all my Vectra stuff, and I've got all of these different sets of data that's feeding into it. And so it's not just Vectra that's saying this is compromised. Yeah. It's Vectra and Defender, right? It's all of these pieces together saying, here's all the evidence. And I've got one that has over 270 alerts on it, a single entity. So I can clear a lot of stuff up just by working at the incident level or working at the entity level. And so now in here, I can start scrolling through and I can start seeing, oh, this guy's presenting this hidden HTTPS tunnel. So it's an encrypted tunnel. It looks like they're being controlled from the outside. It's got a score. They're doing an internal darknet scan. They're trying to find hosts that don't even exist on the network. And then now, we've set it up to a critical score. Like we changing the elevating the host and the whole score on the host to be able to say, this is something that has at an entity level has changed and has increased. And then it keeps doing stuff, right? Because shame on me, I didn't stop it right when it started there and it entered critical. Let's see what's the worst that can happen. And it continues on, some port sweeping, some suspicious remote execution, and we can go into the details. And when we start going into the details of these things, we can link in, you can start doing your research in here, and we can see a suspicious remote execution, lateral movement, SMB PS exec. Oh, okay. It's doing a PS exec. And where was my start service? It's doing
second most harmful service other than PowerShell, right?
Yeah. So exactly. So we can start tying all this stuff together, and then we can make sort of these rapid decisions without having to pivot to all the tools. And the only way this works is that when the central tool, and that's what I'm saying, that this is the platform of action. So we're detection. We put our data into here. Other tool sets are putting the data into here. We're using analytics rules to be able to say, okay, at what stage do I want to have an incident created? And then that's what, from a SOC team, that I should be looking at. Yeah, that's right. Confirm the compromise, and that's what we're focused on, and not worry about the rest of the noise.
So how do customers get this? Is this kind of the standard content hub? Hey, go look for Vectra type of thing?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's all part of the Content Hub. The analytics rules come with it. The workbooks come with it. There's multiple, and then you choose which analytics rules you want to put into place based off of, or what you want to modify based off of, your preference. Some are saying, you know what, I don't even get out of bed unless it's critical.
So is there some customization after you enable this, though? I see you kind of
the analytics rule
to that a little bit.
The analytics rule,
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, the analytics rule is where the customizations would be. Okay. And inside the customizations is where you want to start doing your which ones you want to apply.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And then you can edit those, and you can say, you know what, do I want to deal with my rule logic? Am I only dealing with certainty scores, info, low, medium, high? So you can set it. I believe our default is high and critical. So we start with the default, but as you can modify as you need to.
Do you also assign the MITRE tactic, or is that something that customer needs to assign as well?
Right now, the customer needs to assign. It's something that that we're looking into. We're not done with working on this, so we want to continue to work on logic apps and the assignment and rolling everything together and taking all of that off the plate of the analysts, so that they can just look at all the evidence and be confident in their decision.
Yeah, that was one big question during some Sentinel sessions last week. Attendees would just ask, what do you use? And once I mentioned MITRE Tech Framework, they're just like, oh, that's great. So,
yeah, and all our stuff is mapped to MITRE already, so it's just a matter of wrapping it into this view. Yeah.
So I see two in my Content Hub: Vectra AI Stream and Vectra Detect. What's the difference?
Oh, so we were just looking at Vectra Detect. So Vectra Detect is that engine that here's all that evidence.
So now, the Vectra Detect is what people listening and watching want for this.
For this, yeah. Okay. So that's your evidence. Now, you mentioned something at the top of the show here, hunting.
Yes.
And hunting, because there's more to it. Yeah. So when you can have a signal, great. We want to look for that. We want to find, those unknown unknowns, they're called. And yes, we're going to do that. But there's also tremendous value in doing hunting. And so when it comes to hunting, there's so many places you can start. But one of the things that you need to hunt is you need data. You need something to hunt in. And that's where Stream comes in. So Stream, unlike Detect, which is the actual attacker behavior that's presenting, Stream isn't detections. Stream is just the raw network telemetry. It's the raw data. And so in here, we've got workbooks for it as well. There's multiple tabs, but you can get just a very quick, governance, risk, and compliance, SMB servers exposed to the internet, RDP servers exposed to the internet. We can pick all this up just on network telemetry, right? Yeah. And it's low-hanging fruit that you can go ahead and you can address. SMB v1, try to clean up all that. But you can also go into the actual data streams themselves. And yeah, this is where you're talking earlier, Rod, where, hey, I do have an indicator that's just shown up. It's not been fixed yet. And I want to do a retrospective analysis into my environment. And, here's a domain, IOC, or here's a certificate, or here's something that I want to go hunting on. Well, we've got all that data,
right? All
that network telemetry that's in there. And there's multiple. I've only pulled up a few streams here. There's certainly more than this, but certainly DNS is a valid one to go looking in. Mm-hmm. We want to look at all the DNS data. We want to look at things like NTLM data, seeing what's success and what's failure for authentications. iSession, this is when you start getting into, it's like the flow data on steroids, because it's not just the beginning and the end. It's, the entire conversation in between.
I was going to suggest flow, net flow and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I don't know, is this unknown TCP 443, not SSL going over 443? Does that sound right? Is that something we want to hunt on? Maybe. So now you can do all the hunting inside of it. And then because you mentioned hunting, I just clicked on my hunting tab, because this is the first time I'm seeing it, and we've got our beaconing in here. So some of our queries are, because the queries are already in the system, they become available for doing hunting. And maybe I want to do a beacon query and see what kind of beacons are happening. I turned it off.
So I'm a data hoarder. Just for people that don't know, I love it. So this stream sounds like there's a lot more data, and you use your own sensors, I guess, your own agents to collect that data. Is there a lot more data that gets ingested into this log analytics workspace because of that, or can you control that somehow?
Oh, you can. So you control it at the source, and at the source, what we mean by at the source is which streams do you want to ingest. So the HTTP stream, a DNS stream, HTTPS, X509, NTLM. There's several streams, and some are going to be busier than others. An SMB stream and getting a list of all SMB files, all SMB users, that could be quite a bit of data. So and nothing's free, right? You got to pay for data storage and stuff. So do you want that stream? Do you want the iSession stream? Maybe I don't want the iSession stream, which is every flow connection, because I have all my other streams. I'm going to have the DNS information. I'm going to have the SMB information. So you can throttle it on that side as the data is being collected. And then I'm just showing here, I made it so that, we're only showing some of the columns, the interesting ones, but you get an idea of even in the data sets themselves, it's, there's no shortage of this is just the X509 data. So if you want to search on curves, you want to go hunting on ellipticals, you want to go on ellipticals, you want to go hunting. You
just want to practice your KQL. Yeah,
exactly. And you can do your retrospective hunting and see, okay, is anything still compromised?
Hunting's one of my favorite things for those that don't know. So even though it is still a manual process, I just love to do it. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a glutton for punishment, but I love it.
It tests, it tests your thought process, right? So
yeah. Well, and it gives you that ability, to identify gaps in coverage or gaps in security in some instances. So yeah.
That's a great point, because that's the thing that, I get a lot is people, okay, well, AI is going to solve all those problems and it's going to tell you everything. No, it's AI, not even just AI, but AI and detections and signatures and other ways. They're going to give you indicators, but there's always going to be gaps. And it's okay if there's gaps, right? As long as you get enough of the picture,
right?
I guess, we don't even need, what is it in English? We don't even need vowels to understand, what's
right.
Similar concept. But, hey, if we can start putting them in there, why not? If it makes the picture clearer, especially for level 1 analysts.
Yeah. And gives them something to do when it's kind of a slow day.
Well, there's no better way to understand the attack.
That's right. That's right. By doing the hunting operation, going down, the process.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a great learning tool. And you mentioned the AI piece. One of the things that, I don't know, is just really kind of hit me recently, having discussions last week and things about AI. It really boils down to the source. If that source doesn't have information about that gap, then guess what? You don't know anything about it either. So
right.
And that's what we say about coverage as well. Right? If you're not even monitoring the control plane, how are you going to know that somebody somewhere else entirely has just compromised the entire thing?
Right. AI is not going to tell you. They're wanting to take over your enterprise anyway.
There you go.
Dale, it seems like the uplift to get going on these solutions is pretty minimal. Go into the Content Hub, install it out of the box. Is it fairly straightforward for your maybe an SMB or a small organization doesn't have a lot of experience with these types of solutions to get going and start taking advantage of this, or is there's some research and
no, it's very straightforward, especially if you're cloud first. And so there's nothing wrong. So let's say you want to get started with, you want additional protections and information around your Office 365 and your Azure AD. Okay. And you're doing so everything cloud-based. So you go ahead, you get your SaaS tenant. The sensor is like a one-click, authorize, away you go, get the logs, your Content Hub, that's all the free workbooks and stuff like that. And away you go. Now, I'd love to say everything's that easy. But, once you start including your hybrid enterprise and you're looking at the data center, you still have some physical assets. Now you do have to deal with, getting access to the network traffic through span, tap, or mirror. It's not hard. It's technology as old as the hills, but
little extra
you
work.
don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
I can appreciate that.
So easy, a caveman can do it.
Yeah.
I just hope no cavemen are listening, so we don't offend them.
Yeah, that was rude, Rod.
Yeah, I know. There's already questions about cost. Dale, I'm guessing you're not a cost pricing person. I'm not. If anybody ever asks me, hey, what's that cost going to cost me? I'm just going to tell them to go talk to somebody else.
Send him to Edward.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Edward's the sales guy.
Edward's the sales guy. He knows all the answers. Yeah, perfect.
But he's not here, so we'll just let it lie right there on the floor.
Well, we bugged Andrea a little bit. She wasn't here, so we can bug Edward a little bit while he's not here. That's okay.
Right. But this looks, I love this. I love how you tied together that story of that attack or the potential attack. So I think that's super awesome.
Well, that's all we're trying to do is, give people a fighting chance.
No doubt. And if this is your tenant at home and you're watching this, you have some problems. You got to go button your shit up. I'll just call it out right now.
If this is your tenant and you have a guy named Dale.
I showed you the clean one too.
He's
Yeah.
Dale, do you want to plug your website? Plug upcoming features that we should be keeping an eye out for? What excites you about Vectra moving forward? What do you want people to know?
Yeah, so actually, any day now that I was showing you an early view of this, the Vectra Cloud workbook here, prioritized, non-prioritized. That's hitting the Content Hub. Should be any day now. And that's sort of just moving this in towards that view of even further refinement, threat, certainty, quadrants, all this other stuff. It's not hard by any stretch, but you know what? Prioritized, not prioritized, and prioritized through basically a finite level. You start at the top and you work to the bottom.
Right.
That's,
right. Squeakiest wheel. Yeah. Copy
and that's
that.
it. And that's where you're going to get your most mileage.
So I hear urgency score, and it sends me back to when I was a kid. We were driving long trips to go see grandma, and you're like, had to go to the restroom, right? What's your urgency score? What's your level of urgency?
Yeah.
Oh, don't tell me like that.
100.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's bursting at the seams. Dale, do you see MSSPs leverage your capabilities for monitoring other tenants, or is this
we do all the time? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I can see a lot of value in that.
I don't know if you could tell us or not, but what's the future of this? What do you expect maybe within the next 6 months? Some additional value to bring potentially, or maybe some enhancements, or.
Well, primary is the Vectra Cloud and bringing more to a SaaS tenant and removing some of those other boundaries that are quite frankly getting set up, getting started, deploying kit and everything like that. It's too hard to do, right? It's not, the time to value is too long. So that's what we're really focused on. Really have our SaaS tenant completing and really working with the ecosystem as we move into the Vectra Cloud. Everything API based, right? Making all these calls, getting access to all the data, and completing out more of those operational workbooks. We've got an amazing signal. We're always going to add our signals. We're going to continue to do that. That's what we do. But helping people make a better decision, here's the data. What does it mean? How do I interpret it? And then by feeding into the rest of the tools like we're doing with Sentinel. Having a full-blown end-to-end detection through incident management and closure and response and reporting. So that's all part of it. That's not something we've looked into yet on the Sentinel side, but we capture, there's a nice tie-in for as you're closing stuff. We've got a mechanism to close with resolution codes as well. So now tracking, yes, we already track time to detect, time to prioritize. Now you can have real metrics for time to respond and time to recover. Right. Awesome. So because ultimately that's how we're all measured at the end of the day, right? You want to make sure that you're improving. So those are other areas that we're looking at. Yeah.
Well, a lot of large organizations I'm working with in project capacities, you always get the leader who comes on once every 4 or 5 meetings, and they're like, how can I get my easy view only one-page CIO report?
Yeah.
So if there's, and which is fair, and they want to be able to see the metrics. Like, okay, this all sounds great. You techies, nerds, you're crushing it. Just give me my 2-pager that I can take to the C-suite. or to the board.
Yeah.
So if there's enhancements or options in the future to be able to represent that in a quick and easy way, I think that would be
that's meaningful. Yeah, that's meaningful and relevant and defendable, right? I can give you all kinds of cost avoidance. Hey, here's things that you didn't do. Well, I may never have done them anyway, so I still saved zero, right? We want to be able to say, what does it really mean?
Yeah. Right. I picture in my mind a one pager that just says "We're okay."
You're good.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Not in the news today.
Changes.
Yeah.
One suggestion. Here's something you may want to think about. I love the timeline. Again, I love this. This is the first demo I've seen of this, by the way. But I love this. I love the storyline. I love the hunt aspect of it, being able to tell, from the inception all the way to where the threat exists right now within the environment. Maybe an actual timeline, maybe a workbook that shows it as an actual, like a historic type timeline. Again, to make it more graphical versus, I prefer to read comic books instead of novels, right?
Yep.
Give me really pretty pictures. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I envision, I guess, sort of just speaking off the top here, I'm kind of envisioning working through the same model that's there, detection through incident creation, and then have the playbooks that run after to go ahead and format that for that consumption. I want a full-blown timeline end to end, show me what's happening. And then, because I'm like you, I'm a visual learner. That's how I really interpret it. So
yeah. I found that though a lot for folks in the security realm. I guess we are kind of visual. Even though we deal with data all day long, rows and rows and columns of data, we like to kind of format it in a special way so that we can understand it a little bit better, I think. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially if you're an ADD poster child like me and you just want to get to the point. Like, okay, let me just see the graphic and the whole thing in front of me. I don't have to peer down this entire chart.
Is that why you never respond to anything?
Rod, I do get to everything eventually. Okay, be nice. Yeah. Yeah, cool, Dale. Well, Vectra.ai, if you're listening, not watching, and if you're listening, sorry, we had a great demo here. If you are able to, and you can take a look at one of our video recordings, Dale went over the whole environment, and it was really cool, and I think would be a great asset for any organization or MSSP.
We should, Brody, if you're going to do the post-production, include the link to LinkedIn for the video so that everybody can jump back to it in the show notes so everybody can watch the demo.
Yeah, for sure. And should I start including the YouTube and Twitch ones too, or just the LinkedIn one?
I think LinkedIn will be there longer than the other ones. I don't know. But,
so I'm paying you to say that, Rod? Yeah.
Yeah, Microsoft. Even though I won't go down that route.
Yeah, copy that.
Twitch, is only there for like a couple weeks. The Twitch video.
Oh, that's right. It's 2 weeks and it's gone. Yeah. YouTube persists, but I will put since it sounds like I'm doing it again. I will put the YouTube video link in there.
I actually have to go back and help the wife paint some more stuff.
Oh, got it. Okay, copy that. I got to upload the old episode up to your Azure Storage Explorer. I just have a local copy, but I digress. But we won't get into all that. Dale, that was fantastic. The channel appreciates it. We appreciate the demo. It's always great getting a nice technical individual on to explain a really cool solution. And if it's got AI in the title, I mean, we're all for it, right? Ears perked up. Yeah. Like it's designing
just
Skynet
not that
here.
Bard word. Just not that Bard word. That's all we know.
Oh yeah, Bard's weird. Who came up with Bard? That's kind of lame. I'm just gonna I know who I work for. It's kind of lame. I'm just gonna call it out. But anyway, Dale, any last words? Any shout outs? Congrats to you and the team for your recognition. Any final words or?
Oh no, that's great. Really appreciate it. And just thanks for taking the time and allowing me on here to speak my piece and chat with you guys. It was a blast. A great time.
Thank you. Awesome.
I want to name my next AI Minstrel.
On that note,
right?
With the eye.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great. Well, we'll make sure that makes the cut. Well, viewers, listeners, fans, supporters, thank you for tuning in to the show with the Minstrel here, Rod, myself, and Dale, and we really appreciate your support. And Dale, thanks for coming on again. Until next week, have a great day, everyone.